So I came across a tweet where David Icke, the king of conspiracy theories, a very conscious brother, one of the OGs, I had him on my podcast a few years back. He's having a go at my man, Rusty Rockets, Russell Brand, Mr. It's quite fascinating, really, how we're all matriculating this high level of consciousness. We need to come together as one, experience harmony, agape, love. Nah, I mean. Rusty Rockets is a fascinating character. Anyway, David Icke is having a go at this guy, along with Candace Owens and a lot of figures within the mainstream alternative media, as he puts it, that seem to be adopting this fundamentalist Christian Catholic worldview. Anyway, I'm going to read to you his tweet, and we're going to break it down and let us know what your thoughts are on this. So, David writes, Candace Owens converts to Roman Catholicism, as has Eva Vlardinger-Broek and Jordan Peterson's wife, while Russell Brand does the rosary. What the F is happening to the MAM, mainstream alternative media? They talk about freedom of speech and convert to a church with a long, long history of mass murder for the crime of having a different opinion. Oh, extraordinary. Something's going on and it's not good. Hurl all the abuse you like. It matters not to me. It needs saying when blatant cognitive dissonance is so rampant. All right, well, look, I definitely think there has been a theme here. We can see this. Russell Brand has openly said that he has been reading scriptures and he's taken on more of a fundamentalist Christian worldview. Rusty Rockets has always been more spiritually Eastern leaning in his worldview, more the synthesis like in his take. He adopts many different philosophies and religions, kind of like me. But more recently, a lot of people are saying he's found God. Now, I, for one, don't believe God simply denotes the biblical version of God, but he's taken on more of a Western Christian standpoint, mainstream Christian standpoint. And it seems that David Icke is taking issue with this. Candace Owens has also converted to Roman Catholicism. Now, David Icke makes the point here that they talk about freedom of speech and convert to a church with a long history of mass murder for the crime of having a different opinion, which I think is a very weak, disingenuous argument. I mean, it's kind of like saying, oh, you become an American. How can you adopt a country that has a history of bombing so many innocent people, committing genocide, right? Now, we have to separate the ideology from the behavior of people that adopt that ideology. Because you can imagine if I was to say, okay, someone like David Icke, that I think a lot of people would call a New Ager. I don't know if he identifies as this, but whatever ideology you want, you can find people within that ideology that have done heinous things. Oh, wait a sec. Oh, you're a New Ager? You're a hippie? You're some kind of a spiritualist? Well, Hitler was someone that would be considered a New Ager. He adopted a lot of the same theosophical viewpoints as many of these figures, like I think David Icke would, and he committed horrible atrocities. Oh, how could you adopt an ideology that is responsible for committing genocide on the Jews? You see the kind of insanity that alludes to? Or, hey, you're an American. America is responsible for killing so many innocent people, when the fundamental idea of America, right, was founded on the principles of liberty, freedom. Now, granted, it's changed over time, and I don't think it's fair to equate the behavior of so many of the people that are not in line, by the way, with the teachings of freedom that the country was formed on, like to hold you responsible for their actions. It's completely insane. But this is the kind of argument people like to make. And there's this concept in philosophy known as the ship of Theseus. Now, there's this ship in ancient times known as the ship of Theseus. It had this reputation for going on these voyages and doing the most amazing things, winning all these victories, right? But over time, parts of that ship would be replaced. The oars, the hull, to the point where it was a completely different ship. Now, it still had the reputation for being this amazing ship that had done all these amazing things, but it was a completely different entity. And you apply this, right, to the world, or to institutions within the world, and we've done this with America. People do this with Christianity, not realizing that the institution of Christianity now is a completely different entity to what it was during its origins. You have a look at the esoteric origins of Christianity, and it's very different. Or even with the many different denominations, clearly they've changed. This is a thing that happens with every entity once it becomes big enough, whether it is Bitcoin, whether it is Christianity, whether it is the New Age community. When something becomes big enough, it branches out into different denominations, and then people have these radical ideas and so forth. So the idea that you should hold someone responsible for joining an ideology that has a history of people doing horrible things is completely insane. Now, we have to look at the ideology in of itself. Now, Russell Brand, I've heard speak about why he's adopted the ideology of Christianity. He's taken more fundamentalist leaning towards the Christian worldview. And he said that he's been reading through these scriptures again, and he likes this idea of Jesus Christ being a figure of sacrifice. This is the mainstream Christian worldview of someone that is willing to turn the other cheek, compassion, all this kind of stuff. Now, I respect that. Now, for me to say that someone is bad because people that have wrongfully adopted these ideologies or this ideology have done horrible things, I think is a very disingenuous argument. And I also want to say that first and foremost, I'm not trying to defend any of these ideologies here. I absolutely am aware that they have a history of doing horrible things. I am the first to condemn the United States of America for all the acts of genocide they've done. I'm the first to condemn the Inquisitions. I'm also the first to condemn all the horrible things that atheists or spiritualists, people of any tradition, have done. There are Buddhists in Burma that committed horrible atrocities, right? And I've always thought of Buddhism as being this ideology that is free from all of the atrocities of genocide. But this is just the condition of humanity where horrible people do horrible things. Now, granted, they may be paying lip service to an ideology, but when the ideology is completely against their actions and then doing these things, the idea of holding someone responsible for that is insane. It would be just as ludicrous for someone to say, I'm black, therefore, because I'm identifying as a black man, that's insane, because black people have popped so many caps in people's asses. They're like, look, mate, why are you identifying as a black person? Don't you know black people are always like popping caps in people's asses, man? Look, mate, black people, I had a black person that stole my car one time, and it happens on the regular. So, why would you want to identify with a people that have done horrible things? It's insane, right? And look, I realize that might seem like a stretch, but it's the same kind of thinking, logically, like equating someone's belief in an ideology or identifying in a particular group, equating the actions of people within that group to them. Completely insane. So I think David Icke, if he's being completely honest, realizes it's a completely stupid argument. Everyone does. But he is making a good point here that the facts are that this institution has done horrible things, but I think we have to go to the heart of this, why people are adopting any particular ideology. And I think there is a bit of a void in the world right now where people are seeing the problems with current society, where we don't have any belief in a higher power, and they're trying to fill that void. And I think one of the beautiful things about any religious organization is community. That there are so many people that share that community. People want to feel a sense of understanding. Not everyone can be an Aquarian like myself where they don't need to fit in, but first and foremost, I think it's important for us to be honest about why we are adopting a particular religion and ideology, and also be honest as to the issues that we see with an ideology, and not try to hold people accountable for the actions of their forefathers.